This is the Reading Instruction Show. I'm your host, Dr. Andy Johnson. Today's presentation is called the Louisa Moats Comedy Hour. Now, when I go to look at letters, I go to this letters website, and on the letters website, I see this white paper disguised as an academic article. And Dr. Moats has written this. She's the author of Letters, and it says Literacy Professional Development, 10 Reasons Why It's Essential. Now, in previous podcasts and YouTubes, people ask me, Dr. Johnson, they say, or you beanhead, or whatever they say, have you taken a letters course? Have you read letters? How can you be so critical of letters? Letters is wonderful. It's saving America. Well, based on the white paper on their website, and if you go to the Letters website, you'll see this white paper, and it looks like that. You can see the cover. Based on that, why would any legitimate scholar or knowledgeable teacher spend 5 minutes or 5 cents on anything letters related? Based on that white paper. And I'll show you why. And as you see this today, I'm breaking down just a little part of this. Why she holds no credibility. Is she using legitimate research and science to come to her conclusions or to support her statements? Or is it I thinkisms and pseudoscience and misinterpretation and misapplication of research? It's the latter. Again, you'll see that paper, that white paper disguised as an academic article on her website. She has 10 reasons why literacy professional development is important. And it is essential, absolutely. And I could give you probably 20 reasons. And the reasons I give you would be based on research, not I thinkisms. But we're going to look just at the first statement. Statement number 1. And it says, prior coursework has been insufficient to prepare teachers for effective literacy instruction. That is yes or no. That's pretty out there, black and white. Teachers don't have the proper coursework, or the coursework isn't preparing them. And she has 2 supporting statements that are cited. Statement 1, higher education teacher preparation courses often teach only some of the essential components of reading, recommended by major consensus reports, such as that of the National Reading Panel. And we're going to look at that one first, and she cites her sources. And that means, citing that source means that the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, which was responsible for the National Reading Panel report, they support that statement. That's what a citation does. It supports that statement. It says they said that. Okay? So let's take a look at that. Higher education teacher preparation courses often teach only some of the essential components of reading recommended. Okay? And you see the citation there. And this is why it's a little weaselly. And this was the first flag that went up in my head. Very first one. The National Reading Panel report did not say that higher education only teaches some of the essential components. Actually read the report, not someone's interpretation of it, and not the short version of it. Read the report. It does not say that anywhere in the report. The National Reading Panel did identify what they call the 5 pillars, or the essentials, and teacher preparation courses often teach only some of these? Well, that's the statement, and there's no research to support that. So Moats is kind of weaselly here. She's using that citation. Yes, they did identify the 5 pillars. The essentials, yes, the National Reading Panel did identify them, and that's good to cite that. But the first part of that statement, that first part of that proposition, teacher preparation courses only teach some of these. There's no research data in the National Reading Panel report that supports that. So she is opining. The National Reading Panel report did not report that. She made it appear as if the National Reading Panel was saying that. This is an I thinkism. How does she know that this is the case? How does she know what evidence is cited? She has not cited any evidence there. So that was the first flag that went up. Supporting statement number one is based on an I thinkism, not research or on reading science. And we know, if we are a science of reading advocate, that using good research-based evidence is important. But if it's important, we must use it. Consistently. We can't just use scientific research for some things and not other things. We know this first statement is not supported by scientific research. It is not. It is not. So I have some hope for her. Let's look at statement number two. The majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all of the essential skills involved in reading. That is a damning statement. That is horrible. That's terrible. If it were true, but she has 5 sources here, so let's take a look at the sources, shall we? Okay, 5 supporting citations, and she's saying the majority of teacher preparation programs. And again, how do you know this, Dr. Moats? The U.S. Department of Education, 2018, said there were 2,178 teacher preparation providers. And in these providers, there's 21,510 teacher preparation programs in the United States. That's quite a lot, isn't it? And she's saying the majority, so that must mean 51% or more. Even if it was 51%, that would be 10,756 teacher preparation programs do not offer courses to thoroughly prepare teachers. And I would say, really, how do you know this? Well, you're citing this, so you must know it, mustn't you? You must have some good evidence. Absolutely. Let's see. Well, she got 5 sources here, has 5 sources, and we're going to look at each one of these. But the first 2 are from the National Council for Teacher Quality. 2 of these. Now we know a good researcher, a good scholar relies only on peer-reviewed academic journals or research that has been subjected to blind peer review. We know that's what scholars do. But here are 2 sources that are not subjected to blind peer review. The National Council on Teacher Quality is a think tank. It's not a research tank. There is no blind peer review. People can just collect data and call it research. They can say whatever they want. And a smiling teacher does not equal blind peer review just because there's a smiling teacher. So these 2 sources should be discarded. That's not research. These aren't research, but we have hope for her. She's got 3 more. Let's take a look at that. We can cross those out. 2 of the 5 sources are not valid sources. It's not peer-reviewed research, no matter what they say. And again, collecting data is not the same as research. Research is not research unless and until it has been subjected to blind peer review. All right, so I've taken those out. The majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all the essential skills involved in reading. We've got 3 sources left, so I'm hoping she has some good research to support that very damning statement. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Brady Gillis, blah, 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 blah. Okay, published there. You can take a look at it. All right. First grade teachers' knowledge of phonological awareness and code concepts, examining gains from an intensive form of professional development and corresponding teacher attitudes. This is the research study that Dr. Moats cited to support this statement about teacher preparation programs. Now, the purpose, this is a quote from the abstract. The primary goal in this study was to examine the efficacy of an intensive form of professional development for building the knowledge of teachers in the areas of phonological and awareness and phonics. I go, what? WTF? That has nothing to do with teacher preparation programs? What are you talking about, Dr. Moats? The study examined the efficacy of an intensive form of professional development. Has nothing to do with statement number 2. They're looking at professional development, and they assessed teachers' knowledge before and after the professional development, and they gave teachers a survey, and they called their survey Teacher Knowledge Survey, and they used capital letters to make you think it was something. They developed it to correspond with the concept identified early as important for teaching basic reading skills. Concepts identified earlier. That means they decided what was important. They put together a survey, and they decided what knowledge was needed, and this was related to their professional development. So think about this. You have a professional development thing. I'm sure they're making some money off of it or want to make money. You develop a survey that has the stuff in your professional development. You do a pre and a post. So if you measure X and you teach X, you're going to get higher rates of X. Doesn't take a genius to figure that out. That does not mean that teachers are better able to teach reading. This is some of the weaselly stuff. But again, let's look. There were 57 participants who took this survey. They're all from Connecticut. They were first grade teachers, and 54 females, 3 males, the majority were white. So you really think you can generalize the results from this to a larger population? 57 first grade teachers in Connecticut, and you're going to make a statement about the majority of teacher preparation programs in the U.S.? Dr. Moats, that's a little weaselly, don't you think? Maybe not. So, does this citation support the statement, support the supporting statement? And no, it doesn't. That research study has to do with a teacher professional development, and it's not generalized to this at all. So, we still got 2 left, all right? The majority of teacher preparation programs. Okay, this is the second one, okay? And the title is, Do Textbooks Used in University Reading Education Courses Conform to the Instructional Recommendations of the National Reading Panel? So here we're looking at textbooks to make an assumption about teacher preparation programs. Again, in this study, the authors examined the extent to which the textbooks used in reading education contain the information about the 5 components of literacy instruction. Okay, such scrutiny shows that many textbooks do not adequately cover. How much is adequately? What is adequately? And again, you're deciding that well, we'll go on to this. So, the present study, they contacted 5 well-known publishers, textbook publishers. And which publishers were they? What's well-known? And they asked for the most widely adopted textbooks. Widely adopted by who? By how many? What states? And they came up with 17 textbooks that they thought were widely examined. And 2 of the co-authors, independently, they said, analyzed. And there was no independence about this. They started the study thinking that these 5 components are essential and teacher preparation programs aren't using them. So let's look at textbooks to make the case for teacher preparation programs aren't preparing our teachers. Well, that's just so absolutely silly, because textbooks are not a curriculum. Textbooks are not a course. They're a tool. They tell us little about what is in a course. I don't let a textbook publisher or writer determine what's in my course. It's just such a silly, silly statement. They're looking at textbooks to make a generalization based on textbooks. They are generalizing to 2,178 teacher preparation providers and all these preparation programs based on textbooks, on 17 textbooks. That does not support that statement. It's bad research to start with because they're assuming that the 5 components of the National Reading Panel report are essential. They're important. By the way, the National Reading Panel, interesting stuff. They came up with nothing new there. We had known these 5 things should be included in a reading curriculum. The 5 areas, so you can see them there. Phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and text comprehension. We all know that. We all knew that. These are 5 pillars. Well, there are a couple pillars short. There are about 11 things that should be included in a program. And phonics and phonemic awareness is not the what, it's the how and the how much of these. So the National Reading Panel report is limited, but there was absolutely nothing new there. Okay? So we can cross that one out. Supporting statement number 2, the majority of teacher preparation. Okay? So we have one left, Josh, Binks, Hougen. Let's take a look and see what that one does. Why elementary teachers might be inadequately prepared to teach reading. Okay, well, this might get us someplace. The title, at least, is similar to that supporting statement, isn't it? So let's take a look. Let's pull from the actual study. The authors hypothesize that one of the reasons for this situation is that many instructors responsible for training future elementary teachers are not familiar with the concepts of the linguistic features of English language. This hypothesis was tested by administering a survey of language concepts to 78 instructors. And this is based on the I thinkisms, my good audience, an I thinkism that elementary teachers must be familiar with the concepts of the linguistic features of English language in order to teach reading. And there's just no supporting evidence there. This is not good science. It's based on I thinkism. I think teachers should know this, they said. So I'm going to develop a survey, they said. So when this says this article contained 2 studies, which were actually 2 surveys, they created 2 surveys based on what they thought were important. And these surveys are unrelated to the statement it's used to support that statement, to measure the linguistic knowledge of teacher educators. So people preparing teachers, college professors like me, what do they know? We think they should know these things, so I'm going to create a survey, and I am going to give it to people like Andy. A 68-term survey. That should be a question survey. Okay? So the items in the survey included questions regarding how well universities felt prepared to teach typical readers as well as struggling readers the skills of reading. It's a feeling. How well do you feel? How well do you feel prepared to teach these literacy concepts? 78 college and university instructors who are responsible for teaching reading education classes, 68 doctoral, 10 working, 30 different universities and community colleges from the southwestern United States, okay? 30 universities and community colleges. How many of each? A community college is much different than a university. Southwestern United States, okay? And the instructors, you always have to parse this. The instructors weren't always reading experts. Just because you have a terminal degree doesn't mean you know something about teaching reading. Just because you taught reading in an elementary school doesn't mean you know how or anything about that. you should be a reading expert is different than an educational psychologist or a curriculum and instruction person or a special educator and so forth and so on. But even if linguistic knowledge was important, which it's not, how many were from each of these departments? It doesn't tell us. How many were experts in reading instruction? How many were qualified to be teaching reading? I'll tell you this. If your terminal degree or expertise is in educational psychology, that most likely means you are not prepared to teach a reading methods course. Same with educational administration or leadership. No, you are not prepared. Bilingual education, you're an expert in that. English and second language, you're an expert in that. Special education, I've had this discussion before. Special educators tend to be direct instruction experts, but not reading experts or literacy experts. There is a difference. All right, based on a survey of things they felt were important, which they're really not important, can you really generalize to most teacher preparation programs in the United States? And that's what they're saying. The majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all the essential skills involved in reading. No. So none of these sources actually back up that statement. So do you really want to pay this person to come and speak at anything? Do you see why I wouldn't pay 5 cents or waste 5 minutes on anything letters related? This is her statement. These are her supporting statements. And even though she makes it look like an academic article, she cites sources, but none of the sources cited back up her supporting statements. And none of her supporting statements support the statement. So what are we to conclude? What are we to conclude? I'm not going to tell you what to conclude. I'm going to let you conclude it all by yourself. This has been the Reading Instruction Show. I'm your host, Dr. Andy Johnson.